Shalom, Nili from Yerushalayim, talking to you about Bshvat. You might be wondering, Nili, why are you wearing a weird angel Japanime costume for Bshvat? I thought Bshvat was about the trees and nature. You even have it set up behind you. Okay, so I'll explain. So this morning I led a Bshvat Seder, which I'll explain in a little bit, at the seminaries that I work at. And I challenged the girls to dress in a costume that was creative and would impart one of the messages of Bshvat. So I'll explain mine, and we're going to dive into like a lot of concepts that are absolutely unbelievable. So basically, Rabbi Nachman says, and he learned this out, I believe, from the Ramchal, that above every single blade of grass, there is an angel whispering over it, grow, grow, right? So I thought I'll be that grass angel today, because my job as a teacher is to, kind of whisper softly into the ears of the ears of the girls, like, grow, you got this, you're growing, you could do it, right? So that explains the angel wings and the grass-like plastic wig in my mouth costume for Bshvat. Bshvat, the Kabbalists say, is the absolute holiest night of the year, holier than Yom Kippur, holier than Purim, that's hard to beat, holier than Passover. Like, what do you mean? And Nili, what do you mean that you had a Bshvat Seder? I thought you have Seder on Passover. Can I explain all of this? Absolutely. I'm going to try to do that for you just now. I have the privilege of doing that. So basically, why is it considered the holiest night of the year? Well, Bshvat actually reveals our ultimate purpose, both personally and nationally. So I'll try to cover those. Nationally, let's begin. The first word of the Torah is Breshit, okay? And all the commentators go crazy on this word because it's obviously the first word of the Bible. Like, there has to be significance if God chose it. So what is this Breshit? So Breshit is a combination of two words. Beis, like as in the letter Bet, Reshit. So we have to wonder, what is Beit and what is Reshit? So Beit stands for the word Bishvil, and Reshit stands for the word the first, like the first. So some people say the first is the people of Israel. Bishvil Reshit means for the sake of the people of Israel, God created the world. Okay, that's cool, but like, truthfully, like, I love all my Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist brothers and sisters. Like, I'm pretty sure God created the world for them too. So I'll explain what it means. So some people say that Bishvil Reshit, that Reshit actually means the first fruits. Okay, now people, that's very weird. God might be a fruitarian if he was to eat, but like, really, the whole world, all the mountains, the rivers, the people, the industries, the business, the artwork, the music, all of it is for the sake of fruit? So what are you saying, Nili? What are you telling me? That the whole world, Breshit, Bishvil Reshis, that the Reshis are for the fruits. So now I will explain. Back in the day, when we had a temple, the farmers, and most of us were agriculturalists, we were obligated to bring our first fruits of the season to the temple as an offering, right? So, okay, it's still not explaining it very well, but I'm now going to explain what it is. And if I didn't mention this, I learned this from Rabbi Ben Rosh. So he says like this: if you have Jews bringing their first fruits into the temple in the land of Israel, do you know what this means? It means that we have a land of Israel. It means that the land of Israel is in blossom. It means that the Jews are here. It means that the Jews are serving God, and it means there's a temple. And what does that mean? It means, for the future, that Mashiach has come. And that is our ultimate purpose, that we should all be here celebrating together in a land that's, blossoming. And that not only is it blossoming, that we're not using all of that goodness for our own good, but we're using it to serve God, and we're using it collectively as a festival. And that is our ultimate purpose. And that is the most epic. The commentators say, I think it's Rashi, he says that the greatest sign that Mashiach is imminent, that Mashiach is here, sorry, this headband is kind of hurting my ear. The greatest sign that we have that Mashiach is literally around the corner is when the land of Israel produces fruit in bounty. A stat that I have already from a few years ago is that Israel produces 95% of its own produce for more than 8.5 million people. And not only that, but we're one of the world's leading exporters in fresh and citrus fruits. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are living prophecy today. If you go to the shuk, you could find every fruit of every flavor. We're exporting fruits all over the world, and it says there is no greater sign than this, that Mashiach is around the corner. So please God, we should be celebrating already today. But before we do that, or if I get interrupted by Mashiach's coming, like that would be so awesome. Before we do that, I just want to share a few more kavanah, a few more intentions for Tu B'Shvat. If it's a long video, I hope that it works for you, or just listen to whatever works for you. So now we also said that Tu B'Shvat is not just symbolic of the ultimate purpose of all of mankind, it's also symbolic of our own ultimate purpose and our own growth. And I'd love to explain why. You know, Tu B'Shvat always falls out on the coldest week of the year. I could prove this because every year I'm giving a shiur and I'm checking the weather to see, is it really the coldest week of the year? Tonight is predicted to be the coldest day of the entire year. Even snow is predicted, which is so not something that happens in Jerusalem. But literally, they say even my feet are freezing as I celebrate, as I give you this Torah. I'm wearing green Converse to be celebratory. I'm used to wearing my Uggs to keep myself warm, and my feet are freezing even though I'm sitting here by a heater. It is literally supposed to be the dead of winter, and all the trees are barren, and like there's like not many leaves. There's certainly not flowers or fruits out just yet. I mean, there's a few, but what's the point? What am I saying for our personal growth? Why is this our ultimate purpose? Because Tu B'Shvat represents the highest level of hope. Why? Let's take the mashal, the example of a seed, okay? What happens when you plant a seed? Sort of like the lima bean experiment that a lot of teachers, the science teachers have the kids do in like 4th grade. You know, you bring home the lima bean, it starts to smell really bad. You put it on the cotton, it gets all wet, it falls apart, it's like ugly and gross, and then like, oh look, it's a sprout. What's the point? When a seed goes into the ground, it literally goes into the darkness. It's all alone. It's falling apart to the point that it can't even recognize itself anymore. It doesn't know what to do. I'm sure it doesn't feel good to disintegrate. It's so difficult, so lonely, so cold, so dark. And Dafka, specifically from that place, new life sprouts forth. And that is the message of Tu B'Shvat for all of us, is look, we all have cycles in life. We have seasons. We are called Adam. Man is coming from the word Adama, the earth, the ground. Literally. I mean, Adam and Chava were created literally from the earth. And our essence, it comes from the ground. We have seasons. And in the dark of winter, when a lot of people struggle, and I know some of you watching this are from South Africa, so perhaps it's summer and you're having a blast. But even sometimes when it is summer, it feels dark inside. It feels alone. It feels like we're falling apart. We have to keep our smile on from the outside world, but on the inside we might be falling apart. And God wants us to know that in that moment, that's where new life sprouts forth. So it's like Tu B'Shvat really is representative of the idea of sof maaseh b'machshava tchila, which means that God had the end vision in mind in the first moment he created the world, meaning the end vision was the first fruits, that the Jews would be bringing their first fruits to the temple here in Israel. And that was literally within the first word within Breshit. And so you could see why Breshit is literally like a seed for the entire unfolding of all of humanity, that everything is within the seed, right? And also personally, that when that seed is falling apart, we are growing, right? Sometimes we see ourselves growing and that's awesome, but sometimes we don't. And that's okay too, because we have to trust that in that moment, that angel is whispering above us, grow, 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 and that we will listen and it will happen. But there's like so many other magnificent kavanot, okay? One, for example, we were talking about the Passover Seder. We were talking about leaving Egypt and how we do a Seder then. And now we do a Seder for Tu B'Shvat. What's the deal? Well, what's so cool is that during Passover, we're celebrating our yearning to be in Yerushalayim, to be out of Egypt, and to literally come here. At the end of the Seder, we sing, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim habnuya. We sing, or you may sing a different tune, but the idea is next year in rebuilt Jerusalem. What's the Seder of Tu B'Shvat? We're already here. And even if you're not physically here in this country, you're here emotionally. Some people even order the fruits of Israel in to celebrate their Seder. But nationally, we are celebrating the fruits of Israel, meaning we're already here. The Mashiach is on its way. Okay? Now, let's go back to what you already might know about Tu B'Shvat, what we learn in school, right? We learn in school is Tu B'Shvat higia Chag ha'ilanot. Tu B'Shvat higia Chag ha'ilanot. Okay, fine. What is that? So Tu B'Shvat higia Chag ha'ilanot. It says Tu B'Shvat is coming, the holiday of the trees. But the truth is, that's not what it says in the Gemara. It's not what it says in the Talmud. It's what it says in the children's song. So keep singing it with your kids. It is the new year for the trees. It is when the trees are getting judged. But actually, in the Gemara, it says it's the new year for the tree. Like what tree? This one? The tree in my garden? The tree in your garden? Which tree? So now if you think about it for a moment, you'll be able to realize what it's referencing is the tree of the Garden of Eden. Right? Now, what tree is that? I thought there's a tree of life and a tree of knowledge. Like, which one? Well, kabbalistically, they were actually intertwined, which I would love to explain to you more later, but for now, we'll keep it short. So basically, like we said, we are literally in Tu B'Shvat, we are going back all the way to Act 1, Scene 1 of the Bible, and we are going to celebrate the Tu B'Shvat Yeh Chag HaIlanot. It's the holiday, the festival of the tree. Because we're going all the way back to Bereshit, all the way back to Act 1, Scene 1 of the Bible, and we're fixing the first mistake. So how do we do that? Okay, so we know that Tu B'Shvat is about trees, and we know it's about celebrating nature, we know it's about seeds, and we know it's about growth, but it's also about what those things produce, which is fruit, right? We eat fruit, we eat vegetables, we even eat mezonot, we eat wheat, we eat the things that grow out from the earth. But on Tu B'Shvat, we don't eat it gluttonously, we don't eat it shoving it all in our mouth or forgetting a bracha. On Tu B'Shvat, the idea of having a Tu B'Shvat Seder and why people sit together and take time to make brachot and take time to savor the food. In fact, Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan says we should take 7 seconds for every single word of the blessing. So, Baruch Atah Adonai. Right, or that might have been 8. And I used God's name just for the sake of educational purposes. But we're supposed to take 7 seconds on every single word to make the bracha. Or if you're doing it in English, you could also do the same. Why such intentional blessings? Why do we eat so carefully and slowly? Why do we eat consciously during the month of Shvat and specifically on Tu B'Shvat? Well, because in the Garden of Eden, the mistake that Adam and Eve did is God said, hey, listen, don't eat that fruit yet. You'll be able to eat it just in a little bit of time, actually on Shabbat, which was a few hours after they were created, but don't eat it right now. And we were like, but I'm hungry, or but I want that, or but I have lust for that, I have desire for that. Right? We took that bite. But we took that bite of fruit the same way that some of us take a sip of alcohol or smoke this or that, to actually run away from our emotions, to run away from what we're going through, and essentially then to run away from the voice of our soul, which is to run away from God. That in the Garden of Eden, the mistake that we made, there was a few, but we were impatient and we just desired what we desired, and we didn't do it consciously, and we didn't do it to bring ourselves closer to God. And so on Tu B'Shvat, we make a fixing of this sort of eating, of the stuff my face, emotional eating, and anything which we consume. Again, it could be Netflix binging, it could be Facebook scrolling, right? Consumption. It could be buying things, consumption. It could be just the way we're eating, overeating, or perhaps, God forbid, undereating, any unhealthy eating. All of this eating, it's not eating be'emet, it's not eating in truth. When we eat in truth, when we really are honest with ourselves and with our emotions, we eat healthfully. No matter what it is, right? This is not about a diet or calories or anything like that. It's about being spiritually and psychologically and physically in tune with the way that we're eating, what we're eating, how we're eating, if we're eating with kavanah, if we're eating with gratitude and thanks to God, or if we're literally just stuffing our faces and putting it in. Sexuality is also related to this sort of consumption. It's I want something inside of me to fill me up, right? If I'm not doing it healthfully, then I'm doing it in a way to run away from my emotions, to run away from my soul, to run away from God. So on Tu B'Shvat, we actually do a fixing on that. And we can literally go back and do tshuva. We could fix the sin of Adam and Eve with conscious, healthful, healthy eating. So tonight and tomorrow, God says, you know what? I know, people, this is so hard for you. I created you. I'm pretty sure that every human I've ever met, me personally, and says God, struggles with eating or consumption in some way, shape, or form. Again, whether it's the Netflix binging or the phone scrolling or alcohol or smoking or, you know, any form of buying, whatever it is, consumption, God says, listen, just 24 hours, show me that you're willing to put in the consciousness, you're willing to put your fork down between every bite, that you're willing to look at people, you're willing to taste the food, you're willing to think back to what's the source of this food, the farmer, the effort they put in, the sunlight, the soil, the air, the earth, the globe, the planetary system, all the constellations. You know, when you eat, I had a veggie burger for lunch. When you eat a veggie burger, all the components that are in there, it literally took the entire planetary system just to make that possible. And the store owner who brought it in, who decided to invest his money in a store, and the person that went and got it, and the person that made your card. When we're eating consciously, realizing all these things are just putting in any effort to discipline or restraint or health, we are literally going back to the beginning of time, and we are fixing something that is one of the most challenging things for all humans all around the world, right? So it's actually incredible that we only have one day of Tu B'Shvat, but I think God has Rahmanas, He has sympathy on us, because He knows just how difficult it is to eat healthfully. But God says to us, listen, my holy sisters, my brothers, if you can just give me one day of effort, I will help you the rest of the year. And also, I really encourage you to look online, because all the different fruits that we make brachot on have segulot. They have special, let's say, spiritual, how do I say it? They have auspicious blessings that come with it. So, for example, when you drink wine, when you make a blessing on the wine as a part of the Seder, it's a segula for your soulmate. Or, for example, when you bless on the fruit of the tree, fruits, it's a segula for pregnancy, fertility, for you or anyone you know. When you make a bracha on the mezonot, on wheat products, you can have kavanah, intention, for money, for parnasah. When you make a blessing on adama, it's a segula for refuah shlema, for health. So it's really beautiful to do this with your friends and family, even if you're just sitting with your partner, or even if you're sitting alone, just to have intention for all the people in your life that could really use their soulmate, or, you know, if they're struggling with shalom bayit, like refinding their soulmate every day. Reb Shlomo used to say, don't just find your soulmate once. If you've already found them, find them every single day. And also for fertility, and also for money, and also for health, these basic things that are really all connected to the way we're eating and what we're eating. So as you could see, there's like so much awesomeness connected to the Tu B'Shvat Seder. You know, also in Dvarim, in Deuteronomy 20:19, it says that a man is like the tree of the field. So just as it's the new year for the trees, and on a new year we get judged, the trees get judged, so too man is getting judged for his practices of eating. But God is so kind, so merciful. He doesn't look at us all year long. He looks at us on this one day and says, can you pull this off, honey? Just give me one meal. Just give me one meal of consciousness, and I will help you. I will judge you favorably for the rest of the year. But we're going to need the patience and the trust in ourselves that we can do this. Wow. So today we have covered so many amazing things. We talked about how Tu B'Shvat represents our ultimate purpose as a nation with the first fruits, our ultimate purpose of hope and faith in ourselves, that we are growing, and belief in God, the godly system that has the angels surrounding us at all times, encouraging us to grow in every single way. We talked about how it's the holiest night of the year according to Kabbalah. We talked about the fixing of the Garden of Eden. We talked about where food comes from, and having gratitude and healthy practices. We talked about meditative brachot. And finally, I want to say that our ma'asim, our actions, are the fruits of our labor. So there's really so much we're celebrating here. And also, as we know, that the best way you could really celebrate food and eating and taste is with gratitude, and everybody knows that gratitude is the essence of happiness. So, wow. So I really bless us on this Tu B'Shvat. We already have the fact that there's no greater indication of the Messianic time. So I bless us to live in this Messianic, what is Mashiach? Is redemption, it's redeemed. So I bless us to eat in this redeemed way, to share with each other in this redeemed way, to realize the source of our food, the earthly source and the divine source, to treat ourselves with enough dignity and respect to eat in the way that will be healthiest for us, whatever that means, and to know that just like the seed in this darkest dark of winter, or even if it's summer for you, it through dark times, that really is specifically when we're growing. Finally, I want to share the most favorite Torah I've ever learned, probably in my whole life. It comes from Rabbi Nachman, Torah sameach of Likutei Moharan, and it says like this. Forgive me if I don't exactly explain it perfectly. I never actually learned it inside the text. I just learned it out from my teacher, Rabbanit Yehudis Kolshevsky. So Torah sameach says like this. Okay, and with this story we will end. So, did you know that here in Jerusalem and all over the world since the beginning of time, tzaddikim, the righteous people of the generation, they get up at midnight and they say something, or the middle of the night, whatever the halachic timing is of that, and they say what's called tikkun chatzot. What is this? Well, it's a whole thing that they read and pray about. But what are they doing? Asks Rabbi Nachman during this time. So what they do is like this: they get up in the middle of the night, and they spiritually, what they're doing is they are collecting all of the good points, the nekudot tovot, the good characteristics, the mitzvot of all the people all around them, both in their neighborhood. It's good to live in the vicinity, of a tzaddik, and also all around the world, right? So they're gathering up. If this mother had incredible patience today, they're gathering that up. And if this woman treated her husband with kindness today, he gathers that up. And if this person gave charity, gathers that up. And if this person made a minute to pray or learn Torah, they gather that up. And if this person acknowledged the cashier at the market, they gather that. And they take all of these good points from all around the world and they raise them up into heaven. And in heaven, it's all of these midot tovot and the mitzvot, they begin to create a garden, an incredible garden, because every midat tova, every good quality, every mitzvah, it turns into a leaf, a plant, a petal, a flower up in this garden. And the amazing thing is that they have been building this garden since the beginning of time. The first tzaddik was Adam Harishon, Adam. And so, every single night since the beginning of time, this garden is getting more and more stunning. Can you imagine a garden made of all of the good things and the good qualities that you have ever put into this world since I don't know, age 3 or 4, when you started to be conscious? You helped your parent with something. You did well in school. You helped the nerdy kid. You supported someone who was being bullied. You helped a girlfriend through a hard time. You gave someone a loan. You picked up a piece of litter. You stood up for injustice. All these things even the things that you just did just today. Imagine if all those were becoming part of this amazing garden, this heavenly garden. And wow, that's an incredible Torah in and of itself. But the coolest thing is it gets even deeper. And it's like this. It says that at the middle of the night, a ruach Elohim, a heavenly spirit, a wind, blows through this garden, and all of the leaves, petals, plants, and trees transform into musical notes. And when this wind blows through the garden, each petal, plant, tree, flower, it plays a note, and this garden becomes the most heavenly symphony you've ever heard. And that night after night, since the beginning of time, till you were a child until this day, this symphony grows ever more beautiful and harmonious and echoes throughout the whole heavens. And every night, throughout all of history, including last night, including tonight, this symphony builds and builds. And what will happen when the symphony is complete? So it says that is the song of Mashiach. That is the symphony of Mashiach. We know that there's going to be a final song. In fact, just in last week's Parsha, in Parshat Bashalach, it was Shabbat Shirah. And when the people sang the song at the sea, the split sea, it says that was simply, a precedent for the song of Mashiach, and that's why it's phrased in the future tense. Az Yashir Moshe. Then Moshe will sing. And what does it mean? It means that when Mashiach comes, and we've been talking about Mashiach this whole time because of the ultimate purpose of the world is summed up in Bshvat, and in the signs of Mashiach being the produce of Israel being so abundant, right? And so too, the song of Mashiach will play as a symphony of all of this heavenly garden transforming night after night into these beautiful musical notes. And then we will hear this song. And what is the song of Mashiach? It is a compilation of the fruits of all of our labor, of all of our efforts, of all of our growth. So thank you so much for listening. I hope it wasn't too distracting that I'm dressed as the angel of the grass. But I hope that this message was also a loving whisper to myself and to you, not just to grow, but that we are growing. And I hope you have a beautiful Tu B'Shvat Seder, even if it's just you in your home, or if you can gather friends even last minute. It is the ultimate purpose of Breshit, of our lives, and we can fix Gan Eden, and we can, we said it's Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is always a new start, so we can take a new start on healthy practices, healthy consumption, and please God, belief in ourselves, hope in ourselves, in our own change, in our own growth, and in the world. Thank you so much for listening. Happy Tu B'Shvat. Bye.